Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laran, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaran.com. Hello and welcome to episode 103. 103 is a good number. We are solidly into the 100s now. And, I have to apologize for the last week's episode. It was a little rushed. I had to put it together really quickly. And that was because we got back from New York a little bit later than I thought we would get back. And I was really tired and I just needed to make sure I didn't break my streak. There is something to be said about keeping a streak and staying consistent. And so missing the writer's journey is not something I want to do. So I turned on the microphone and I talked regardless of what came out. But I did realize as I was listening to that episode that I forgot to tell about a really, really fun story. It's been said that talents and skills are somewhat genetic, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether you've been exposed to it or not. There's just some things that we are predisposed to be able to do a little bit better, depending on our background, depending on our genes. Health passes through genes. I also think that skills pass through genes. I say that very selfishly because while we were in New York, we happened to do a tour at 30 Rock of NBC Studios. And my wife is a big late night fan. We're big late night fans in our house. And we wanted to try to get tickets to see Jimmy Fallon. We weren't able to do that. But we did get to go onto the set of Seth Meyers. And so that my wife was just in seventh heaven over that. And at the end of the tour, they had a simulated thing where all of the tour members could pretend to be on their own TV show. And so they needed a host, and they needed a guest, and they needed a few camera people, and they needed a band. And they said, we're looking for a host, but this person has to be able to read at a third grade level and has to be comfortable standing on a spot and, following a few instructions. So my daughter, who's 5 years old, raises her hand, and she's like, yeah, I'll do it. Let me just preface this by saying she's in preschool, and she's not in third grade. Not quite what they were expecting, but she's a little tall for her age. So she started, and my daughter literally read off a teleprompter for 5 minutes. A script rolled down, and she just read off this teleprompter like it was nothing. It was crazy. I was standing behind, my wife and I were kind of standing behind the cameras, and we were kind of floored. And so I was like, wow, that's really, really cool. That was my proud dad moment. But yeah, so my daughter, she likes to be behind a microphone, and she does like to be on camera. And so we do this thing every week where I let her record. So I turn on my Blue Yeti and I let her sit behind it, and I just let her talk about whatever's on her mind. And so she does that every week. So that was very good practice for what was going on. So again, I was just kind of joking about things being passed through genes, but I kind of wasn't joking either. Who knows, maybe she'll be a broadcast journalist or something when she grows up. But that I had to share that because I guess thought that was so fun, and I was beaming the whole day. I was really, really proud. So what I do want to talk about are some updates. Updates. So the basement situation. So contractor has started work officially. It seems like it took a million years to get somebody to start this, but he has started the work. He is working on the drywall as we speak, and he should be done with that in about the next 3 to 5 days. I'm really excited about that. We've got the carpet on order. I did settle for carpet. I almost did some bamboo floors, but when I saw the sticker shock on that, I said, no, we're just going to do carpet. But we got some better carpet. It's easier to pull up and all that stuff. So carpet's going to be here right around the time he finishes with the drywall. And the same guy's going to do the carpet, so he's going to do the carpet as well. And I convinced my wife into doing something different with my studio. So once the carpet is laid, we are going to go to the furniture store and we're going to get a couch. I'm going to put that couch in front of the wall that was damaged, and I'm going to put like a canvas painting on that wall, and it's going to look like my YouTube videos look like right now, because I will tell you, my YouTube videos look great right now. It's, in fact, maybe the best they've ever looked. And I'm not saying that just to brag. Like, even my wife was like, yeah, your videos just look really good right now. It's not that they look bad in the past, but there's just something about the lighting and just the arrangement. So I'm going to try to replicate that in my basement, and we're going to see how that goes. But I am really, really excited. The good thing is I haven't had to sacrifice any content, right? That's the main thing that I really want to make sure I'm not sacrificing on. Now, speaking of sacrificing, I have lost some words for the Good Necromancer series, Cold Hard Magic. You know, when I look back on my career, this book is going to be the book that was in development hell. It's only been like 2.5 months, but it feels like forever. So I've been doing about 100 words, 200 words a day. Nothing really substantial, so to speak. And that's because I have a lot of things going on right now that are going to take me away from this for about the next week and a half or so. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Nothing bad, but I am, every once in a while you've got to shuffle around your priorities. You got to move some things around, and unfortunately, this book too was what had to get moved around a little bit. But you guys know me; I've written over 50 books. I'll recover. It's not going to be a big deal. So that is writing. Content-wise, I've been working on batching content because I want to make sure I don't miss any time. Over on my podcast, Writing Tip of the Day, we're talking this week about science fiction subgenres. So for anyone who's interested in that, you can listen to that at authorlevelup.com/flash. That's authorlevelup.com/flash. Writing Tip of the Day is a podcast that I have where I do a writing tip every single day, Monday through Friday, in 2 to 3 minutes or less. It's like bite-sized tips. A lot of people listen to them on their Alexa devices. I didn't want to say that out loud. A robot whose name begins with A, we'll say that. A lot of people listen to it in the morning. A lot of people listen to it on their commute. It's a great podcast if you're a writer and want some more writing tips. I'm doing science fiction tips over there on the show this week, and it seems like that's going pretty well. So be sure to check that out if you are interested. Again, that's authorlevelup.com/flash. If you hear a little bit of jingling in the background, that is my puppy. I'm letting her roam free while I'm recording this podcast. We're going to see how that goes. She's in obedience training right now, and she's doing really well, but I'm just kind of just watching her and seeing how things go. So if you hear a little bit of jingling and some things moving around, that's what that is. So that's been taking up a fair amount of our time, getting her through obedience training. Now that we're kind of out of vacation and we've got a lot of time to focus on her, just making sure we kind of get her where we want her, and she can interact with guests and those sorts of things. And school's going great. We actually just hit the halfway mark in the book. Which is crazy because it's like 650 pages that we're supposed to read for the semester. Yes, so about 350 pages I have read already, and having some really great conversations around copyright. Again, every week I go, it just reinforces the fact that this was exactly why I went to law school, learning some really good stuff. And the reading hasn't been too bad so far, but I was behind about 200 pages starting the beginning of the week, and so I had to catch up with that. That's another reason why the writing kind of fell by the wayside for a little bit. But yeah, so those are my updates on how things are going with me. I feel like once I got back from vacation, got in the groove, things were a lot better. So now what I want to talk about is what I want to spend the balance of the episode talking about. And that is something that's been on my mind for a little while. And I think it's something that's probably on your mind as well. Whether you're a writer or whether you're not a writer, I think it's probably on your mind. And that has to do with spring cleaning. I realized over the past week or so that I have been asleep. And no, I'm not talking about like asleep, like head on the pillow in dreamland. I'm talking about asleep existentially. And no, don't think I'm crazy or anything. I've been asleep existentially. Like wintertime is a intensely regenerative time for me. It's when things tend to slow down in almost all areas of my life, It's when I tend to spend a lot more time indoors. It's when I can usually be somewhat productive. And things just tend to move slower though. So like I can write books, but they might move along a little bit slower. All right, I can get things done like little projects on my writing, but they might move along a little bit slower. And some of that has to do with the holidays. Some of that has to do with the fact that it's just so brutally cold outside. And here in Iowa, I'm usually outside shoveling snow and working on my fireplace and all those things. But I have been asleep, and I didn't want to admit it to myself over the past week or 2 weeks or even a month. But I can't help but realize that I've been asleep. And my message for you today is that if there's anything I've learned, and I've learned a lot of things over the last 7 years, but if there's one thing I've learned about writing, is that the writing life is a life of seasons. Just like it changes, at least here in the Midwest in the United States, the seasons change every 3 months, every 3 to 4 months on average. The seasons in your writing life also change. So there's periods where I am slow, where maybe I don't write as many books, right? And then there's periods where I write a ridiculous amount of books. And then there's periods where they fall somewhere in the middle. At the end of the day, it all evens out. But when you're in those low points, it's really easy to feel like you're not productive at all. It's really easy to feel like maybe you're not going to ever be more productive. And when you're in those really high productive times, it's really easy to think that that's going to last forever. And I realized that my body and I guess you could say my spirit were slowing me down these past few weeks. And I think the reason for it was because I recognized that I needed to heal, right? I needed to rest. I'd been pushing myself pretty hard over the last semester, and I think that I tried to do too much too fast after my class ended, whereas I should have given myself a little bit more time. And as a result, the universe found a way to kind of slow me down. That's why I think this book has taken longer than usual. That's why I think my basement probably flooded, all these things. And I've just had to come to the realization that, okay, that is what it is. I just need to move forward. I got to move past it. And I kind of had an awakening this past Sunday. I was just I realized, wait a minute, it was like a switch flipped. I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you're in a slow period, it just takes it's like hearing something from somebody or seeing a television show or whatever it is, like a switch flips. And all of a sudden you're not the same. All of a sudden you're back to your regular self, and you're writing faster than you thought you could write. You're getting things done at a pace that you could never have done the week before. And that's exactly what happened. I really don't know how to explain it. A week ago, I was kind of sleeping in. I was skipping writing sessions. I was making sure I was getting enough sleep. And, obviously I'm still doing that now, but I'm not skipping any writing sessions this week, right? I'm back at it. And what I think, and I'm curious to get other people's thoughts on this. What I think is that, at least here in the States in the winter, maybe it's different in your hemisphere, but I wonder if we just get into this like winter hibernation as writers, where things slow down and we're kind of like bears, and we just kind of slow things down, and our metabolism goes down, our spiritual metabolism goes down. And once the weather starts to warm up and things start to get nicer and the ground starts to unthaw, that's when we start to become more productive. The groundhogs start coming out of the ground, looking around like, oh my gosh, what? It's finally spring. That's what it feels like for me right now. It feels like I'm entering a spring in my writing career. And like I said, I hope that this isn't too abstract. I hope that it's speaking to somebody out there, that if you've been feeling the last few weeks like maybe you haven't been productive, I don't think it's you. Obviously, we all have our choices. There's things that we choose to do, and there's always more we could be doing in our careers. But I think collectively as a writer group, this past winter, this past season has been particularly brutal. And so if you felt unproductive, this is your wake-up call, right? I'm waking you up. I'm shaking you by the shoulder. I'm putting some smelling salts under your nose. I want you to wake up. Wake up so that you can get back to work, right? Don't worry about what the past few months, what happened or what didn't happen. What matters is that you're awake now and you've got the entire year in front of you to do some really amazing things. And I want you to seize on that, right? Because we're still early in 2020. We're really early in 2020, and I'm really excited about it. But anyway, that's been on my mind. And so now that I'm awake, I was going to say now that I'm woke, but that's not the proper way to use it. Now that I'm awake, I'm doing some spring cleaning and I'm cleaning house and I'm looking at all the things that maybe I didn't work on in the winter. And I'm looking at, okay, do some of these things still make sense? What are some of the loose ends I need to tie up so I can put a box on these last few months and move into more productive times? And so, house cleaning, spring cleaning, that's just not for your house. That's also for your writing career. It's also for you emotionally, I believe. And so when I think about cleaning up my writing life and doing some spring cleaning on my writing and my writing business, here are some of the things I'm thinking about, right? I'm thinking about assessing the situation. I'm looking at what I need to do at the current moment to close that box, right? So like right now, I've got about 200 to 300 pages of reading every week. So by my estimation, if I can read 5 to 10 extra pages every night, I'm going to get ahead, and I'm eventually going to get to the end of the book before the class will. And then I've learned that once I finish the book in my law classes, the amount of work and prep work that I have to do drops exponentially. So I see that finish line. That finish line is here in about 4 to 5 weeks. I can see it, so I'm racing for it, right? I also have a new insurance class that I'm teaching here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I have a bunch of PowerPoint slides I have to do for that. I did a bunch of them and then I lost them, so I got to do them all over again. It's about 155 PowerPoint slide, which takes up an 8-hour day. Okay, I see the finish line. I'm racing toward that because I know that once I teach a class for the first time, I will have internalized the material and I won't have to ever prep for that anymore, right? So then I can teach that class and not have any more problems, right? That's the horizon I'm looking at. I'm looking at my next batch of content for Author Level Up in the writer's journey, and I'm figuring out how I can get those done so that those can be on autopilot for me. I'm looking at the next few books that I want to write in my writing career. So I want to wrap up book 2 of Cold Hard Magic for the Good Necromancer series. I want to jump into book 3 right away after that. And then I also want to get some writing books done. In fact, I want to get a lot of writing books done this year because I can write them quickly. And I've got some topics that are kind of unusual, but I think that are very common questions that people have, especially as beginners, that I think I can have a voice and maybe do something a little bit different in a way that I think will hit that sweet spot between writing and what do you call it? Art and commerce. I couldn't think about how to say that for a second. And, I've just got some crazy projects at work that, work is just never ending, right? I'm looking at the situation and I'm figuring out, okay, what are the things that I need to do? How can I get myself on stable ground? And then I'm looking at the things I need to start not doing. What are the things that I should not be doing? What are some of the loose ends that I can cut? Are there, some things that I maybe can put on the back burner? I've had some projects that I've wanted to do, like audiobooks. I want to do my own audiobooks, and I still want to do that this year. But maybe I need to pause that and take care of some other things first, right? So, like I said, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at cutting things, and then I'm looking at how I can grow. The best example I can give of this is it's like a lilac bush. I've got a lilac bush in my backyard, and every year I have to trim it. You've got to cut branches off of it, which, if you really think about it, that's kind of counterintuitive when you think about a flower. I mean, why would you cut parts off of a flower so it can grow? Well, it's because not every branch that grows on a bush is going to be fruitful. And so if you cut the unfruitful branches, that's how the bush can grow bigger and how it can come back better next year. That's exactly what we need to do in the writing life. So if you have not done your spiritual and your emotional pruning, first off, wake up. But if you're awake and you haven't done that yet, we've got a few days left in February. We're going to have a few weeks left in winter if you live in a hemisphere where winter is happening right now. And I want you to be able to hit the ground running when spring hits, because spring is very close. It's on the horizon, and I want all of us to really have a great 2020. I have some great things planned for this year, and I think it's going to happen. And before I end, I did want to talk about Amazon ads. So I did an episode 2 weeks ago about how I almost lost my shirt on Amazon ads. And I mentioned how I was spending like $30 a day and nothing was happening. And I'm pleased to say that those ads that were spending me money and going into a black hole, they've broken even. So it took me the majority of the month to break even on those ads. But now I'm probably going to end the month about even. But the nice part is I'm not losing any money, right? So I'm going to be doubling down on Brian Cohen's strategy and getting more books turned on from my ads. But yeah, absolutely going very well for me, and I'm like super excited. This month was kind of shot, but March is a new month, and I'm thinking that if I get some good ads created, maybe 10 to 20 ads, good ones per each of the books that I've currently got ads on right now, I think I'm going to end March in a pretty good spot, and I'm just going to continue making profit, right? So if you have not checked out Brian Cohen's course, I'll drop another link to it in the comments or in the show notes. Like I said, I can't recommend it enough. It is one of the few things that I've done in the period where I was asleep where, wow, it's going to be a major success story for me this year. And I can't wait to continue sharing more of those details with you. So wherever you all are, I hope that you are doing great. I hope that you are awake. You do that spring cleaning, and I'll have some more news for you next week. But anyway, take care, and I will holler at you next time. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaelaron.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaelaron.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.